Hello everybody, welcome back to Sugar Queen Design. Today I'm going to show you how to perfectly and quickly cover your cake with fondant. We're going to do round cake and we're going to do a square cake. Stay tuned. To cover your cake, you're going to need some fondant. It's very useful if you have a turntable like this. I'm going to show you later. Then you need some knives, rolling pin. I use PVC pipe. Then you need a wet and dry towel. And then I have fondant levelers. I have 2 of them. It's okay if you have only one. I'll show you how to do it, how to make a perfect edges. Then you need some water, some starch, needles or pins for air bubbles, and some measurement tape to measure the size of your cake, and a scale if you want to measure how many grams of fondant you need for your cake. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is to knead our fondant, and of course we're going to take the right amount of it out of the box. It's very hard when you first take it out. There are 2 ways how to knead it or how to condition it. You can put it in the microwave, a chunk of it, of course not all of it, for a little time. Don't exaggerate, because it can heat up too much and it will be difficult for you to continue. So first of all, we're going to measure how much we need. I calculated for the cakes that I have in my fridge the right amount. For the first one I need around 600 grams, and for another one I need around 700. So we're gonna almost around 600, and another one. I have 2 cakes in my fridge. About the brand of the fondant that you use depends on what you prefer or the country you live in. Here in Slovenia, I think the most popular fondant is this one, Masa Ticino from Karma. It's very stretchy. It doesn't have that elephant skin, not so much as maybe some others. It's not the cheapest one. It's actually quite expensive, and maybe you could check or maybe research what kind of fondant you have in your country, or maybe order it from Amazon or internet. A little bit more. Make sure you cover your fondant that you don't need in the back, so it doesn't dry out. First, we have to give this fondant a good knead. So you start with some starch on the table, so it doesn't stick to the table, of course. And then you give it a knead. It's like working out. My fondant isn't that hard, actually, so I don't need to put it in the microwave. If you feel that it's too hard to start kneading, you have 2 choices. You can split it or cut it in small chunks, and then try to knead the small chunks of fondant, or you can put it in a microwave, but for a very short time, or bursts of short time, and then knead it. How long you have to knead it? It really depends on the fondant you use. Our goal is that it stretches without tearing, like this. It stretches, it tears, but it has a good stretch, maybe just a little more. Before we actually start covering our cakes, I thought we could talk a little bit about the amount of fondant that you need. I see a lot of people starting with not enough fondant, and then what happens is that they cannot roll it out to the size that they need, or they roll it too thin, and then it tears, you have problems. You can see through the cake, through the fondant, you can see the cake or the ganache, especially if you have a dark ganache and a white fondant like we have today. So make sure you start with enough amount of the fondant. On the internet you have a lot of different calculators, how to calculate, and from my experience I can tell you that for a normal size of a cake, let's say 26 centimeter of diameter, and I don't know about that height, I usually use around 1 kilo to start with. Of course you will have some leftovers, so you can do it comfortably, and then if you're careful not to spread any ganache on the fondant that you have all around the cake, you can just knead it up and use it for another time. So let's go to take our cakes. I'll take my cakes from the fridge and we'll cover it. So here is my round cake. I just took it out of the fridge. You can see, or maybe you don't see, it has a little bit of condensation on it. A little bit of condensation on the top of your cake is fine. It's actually useful. It helps you to stick the fondant on the cake. But you have to avoid too much condensation, otherwise you can have problems with coverage. And the way you do that is to hurry. When you take it out of the fridge, you have a limited time window when the condensation is too much. This is around 700 grams of fondant. I'll just give it a quick knead again. It's always useful, even if it was in the bag for, I don't know, 5 minutes. It's useful to give it a little bit of knead again. So I have a round shape. We'll put some more starch, a little bit more in the start and less afterwards. Okay. I have my PVC pipe. You start in the middle and push it out, up and down, and then stop. Just leave a little bit of, I don't know what that is, a bulb around here. Turn it around, do it again, same thing. Start in the middle. If you see any air bubbles, like I do, use your needle. I have a very thin needle here. The thinner, the better. Just push the needle inside and press so the air goes out. I have another one here. Where is it? Here, I think. Did I get it? Okay. Try to do it evenly as possible. You see how I don't go over the edge. Shadows are useful to see the air bubbles. Move it around. If you need, you can put some more starch underneath. The thickness that we are looking for is around 4 millimeters. You can do it 3, maybe 5, but around here, from 3 to 5. I use PVC pipes for this reason, so you can drag and smooth your fondant. Okay, and now we're gonna measure. We should do it this earlier, but no problem. We have a height of 5.5 centimeters and 20, we can do it like this, around 31 centimeters. We're gonna use some extra, so I think this is just right. Yes. This is the thickness. Maybe we could smooth it out a little bit. So it's the same thickness all around. Okay, this is the thickness that we are looking for. Okay, now we're gonna bring our cake in the middle of the table and we're gonna roll this one. I press this fondant on the edge a little bit so it doesn't make indentation when we roll it. So press it a little bit, then roll it gently. Bring the cake in the middle and then just start like this. Position, okay, a little bit left over on the side, and then you roll it like this. You can put some starch, it's smoother. Okay, and the first thing you're gonna need to do is to secure the edges. Those edges have tendency to stretch and to tear. So first thing you need to do is to secure the edges. My cake had a little bit of condensation, like I said before, on it, so I didn't have to use water. If your cake is very dry, has no moisture on it, it's useful if you have a bottle of water like this, and you just spray it gently, very little amount of water. You spray it on the ganache, on the cake, and then cover it with fondant so it sticks. Okay, so we have our edges secured, and we are halfway there. Okay. Now be careful with the skirt. This is called a skirt. This leftover over there, over here, over there. So just spread it out evenly as much as you can. And then this cake is not that high, so this job won't be very difficult, but it's the same procedure. So starch. You start to glue the fondant a little by little, few centimeters at a time, like this, all the way to the bottom of your cake. And press on the bottom, press the fondant inside, inwards. Like this. Okay. The thing I didn't tell you before, and I should tell you, is that if you want a smoothly covered cake and beautiful edges, sharp edges, the most important thing you have to do is, before you start covering, it's the ganache, it's the buttercream you put on the cake. The smoother, the straighter your ganache or buttercream is, your masking, actually, the better results you'll get with the fondant. If you have crooked cake underneath this fondant, the fondant will be crooked also. It won't be straight. So if you have two of those, this is a little bit not a high enough cake, so I'll have to do it with hands like this. You just pinch a little bit on the edge. Do it, I don't know, 5-7 centimeters, and then smooth it out. Do it again. If my cake was a little bit higher, the way you use two of those fondant levelers is like this, but you have to have the right height, and you smooth it like this. You put one of the levelers like this, and then the other on top of it and over, and then you smooth it like this. Pretend this is a cake, and you do it like this. Then you take your plastic knife and you just mark first. Don't cut it yet, mark first. Maybe we should do this like this. I'll show you the easiest way. I'll just cut off some, I don't need that much of fondant. Okay. This is where our turning table comes in handy. Just mark, press a little bit, don't cut yet, just press. Okay, our round cake is done. Now we're gonna start to cover the square one. So here is my cake, it's a round one. We're gonna cover that, but first I would like to emphasize, like what I said before, it's all about the smoothness and the sharp edges of your masking before you go to covering your cake with fondant. If you want, you can watch my other video about masking the cake. I'm sure you can find the link over there. So my fondant is already kneaded again. So for the round cake, we started with a round shape. And for the square cake, we're gonna start with a square shape. This is a square-ish, so we're gonna start with that. The same procedure as before. You can put a little bit of starch on the top. You start in the middle and press it upwards and downwards. Leave a little bit on the edge, then turn it around. Correct the shape with hands. Okay, like this. like before. Make sure your hands are clean, especially if you're working with white fondant. Just press the edge. Okay, roll it. Leave it on the side. Okay, bring your cake in the front, in the middle, and then do the same thing as with the round cake. You can use your leveler or do it by hands, with hands. And first thing we have to do is secure our edges, like I said, with the round cake. Secure the edges first. People are scared, I don't know why, are scared to cover square cakes, and they have no problems with round one. And you do the same thing, except you have an edge here, so you have to be careful with the edge. Secure the corners first, and then press sides. Do this corner. Stretch it inwards from the edge. Okay. Okay. Use your leveler to smooth the sides. Okay. Now we're gonna do the upper edge, just with pinching and smoothing. Don't cut your leftovers until you reach the bottom, so you have enough fondant to cover the whole height of the cake. So, same thing again, mark, don't cut it. First try. This is it. I am already happy with this one. So, this was my video about how to cover your cake with fondant, with the round and the squared one. I hope you found this video useful. I hope I encourage you to cover also the square ones, not just round ones. As you see, it's not that difficult. If you have any questions at all, I will be very happy to answer you all. Thank you for tuning in, thank you for your time, and I wish you all the best. And don't ever forget, everything is possible.